Welcome to the Belonging Project podcast. This is Fiorenza and I'm your host. The purpose of this podcast is to bring voices together to talk about belonging. Through inspiring, real-life conversations, we explore how belonging can show up in so many different ways, what it feels like to belong, and the impact of truly belonging. Each episode will offer you inspiration and practical strategies to find your true voice in your life and as a leader. Let's dive in. Hi, welcome to the Belonging Project podcast. Today, our guest is Harvey, and I'm so excited. I've been following Isaac for more than a year now. And just his work on disability advocacy is so inspiring. And I've been really enjoying seeing him involved in different types of projects. And I'm actually looking forward to talking more about specifically one that we were just talking about before we started recording the episode. So we haven't met in person yet, although we both live in London. So that's why I'm underlining yet.
Yes.
And yeah, I'm just so happy to have you on the podcast today. Welcome, Isaac.
Hello. Thanks for having me. And definitely the London meetup has to happen. We'll make sure that happens in the near future. But yeah, looking forward to this conversation.
That's a deal.
Yeah, perfect.
So I would love for you to tell us a little bit about your journey, perhaps as a starting point, and your advocacy work. And I'll have lots of questions on that. But how did that sound as a starting point?
Yeah, no, it's good. But I got to keep it brief because my journey is a very long one, and I could go down different routes to my journey. So I'll keep it down the disability advocacy route. So I was born with a disability called pelvic hypoplasia, which means I have no arms, short legs, I have a weak pelvis, so I'm not able to walk, and I have scoliosis, which is the curvature of the spine. And on top of that, I have reflux as well, which is acid in my stomach. And with all of these, I would say, obstacles and disabilities, friends and family have always treated me like everybody else, and it's helped me become the person I am today, overcoming barriers and obstacles. And it garnered me a mindset which allowed me to think more positively when it came to my disability and see disability as my strength. And it's allowed me to do crazy things such as skydiving, skiing, tall ship sailing. The list goes on and on. So I'm very grateful to the people around me. But when it came to the advocacy stuff, I wasn't very vocal on it until recently because, so another thing I do, I'm a video editor, and I would create videos of my journey because once I left school, I said, I'm not doing the 9 to 5. I want to do things that's going to be creatively, getting my brain going when it comes to creative things. So I started doing vlogging after learning editing in school. And I'll just share my journey, but I wouldn't really talk about disability. And loads of friends and family would say, "Oh, you should really talk about disability in your videos. You could really educate people." And I thought, well, why do I need to do that for? I'm enjoying making fun videos of my adventures. But they kept at me, and I kept saying, "No, I don't really want to do it." And it kept kind of made me push away from the idea of doing it until I was given an opportunity to do a public speaking engagement about overcoming obstacles, which I did. And I remember this very clearly. Once I'd finished speaking, a woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "Oh, I get loads of pains in my legs and I complain a lot about it. But after hearing you and your story, it's changed my perspective." And that was kind of like the first time I'd heard it from someone who wasn't a friend or family member. And then that's when I kind of understood the impact I was making. So then I started implementing and talking about disability in my videos, and then started being honest online, and joining LinkedIn, early 2021, which again was a platform I didn't want to go on because it was known to me as the professional Facebook.
It was
So
meant to be boring, right?
yeah, exactly. I was like, why do I need to join that platform? But ended up joining and sharing my story, and I've built a community, and that's how we got connected. So everything happens for a reason.
Are you still vlogging?
I am starting again this year, yes, but I've been putting them up on LinkedIn.
Right, right. And so were you using the YouTube platform before and then you switched to LinkedIn?
Yeah, I did YouTube for about 7 years.
Wow, I must
Yeah.
follow you on YouTube.
Well, I haven't. I looked recently. I've not uploaded for 3 years. It's crazy.
Just before we started the recording, you mentioned that you were doing a catwalk last week for the London Fashion Week.
I
I would
know.
love to hear more about how that opportunity came up. I think you mentioned it wasn't your first year. So, are you thinking of modeling? Are brands reaching out? How is that working?
It's okay. So I'll start from the beginning. So again, thanks to LinkedIn, I was sharing the things that I do with wheels and wheelchairs, which I'm the president for an outdoor activity sports club where roller skaters push wheelchair users. And I mainly joined LinkedIn to potentially get sponsors and people to know what we're doing when it comes to skating. So I was just sharing that part in the beginning of my LinkedIn journey. And that's when I got connected with a woman called Victoria from Unhidden Clothing. And she was like, "Oh, I really want to do some work with you because I have an adaptive fashion brand." So before all of this, the fashion industry, I'll be honest, was something I mocked.
Hmm.
I thought it was ridiculous. It was silly. You would always see these people wearing absolutely ridiculous outfits on the catwalk, and I thought, why do I need to be involved in this? It's like, fashion's not really. I didn't see the need of it. But once you started talking to me about adaptive clothing, that kind of opened my eyes to why it's important, because my mom used to just make clothes fit me, and that's all I knew.
Hmm.
But I never really saw the need of it and how many people are excluded from clothing.
Hmm.
So I decided to take it more seriously. She had a pop up shop in London at the end of 2021, and I ended up going or wanting to go, and she was like, "Oh, as you're coming, do you want to be a model?" And I thought, okay, I've never done anything like this before, but sure. So I ended up being a model, not knowing what was going on in front of 40 people. And then went to the first London Fashion Week in February last year. And that's when I got connected with another woman called Catherine from Seated Sewing. And she made me adaptive clothing in pajamas, which were very stylish. And we've just connected that way. And yeah, but it's an industry I find fascinating. It's a very interesting experience in all angles, from watching a show to actually being behind the scenes. It's a very interesting experience. And for me, modeling for the future, I don't know. I'd love to document it.
I want to clarify or confirm when we say adaptive clothing, does that mean 100% bespoke?
So, for example, the pajamas were made for me in my clothing, but there's accessories on clothing such as magnetic buttons, which allow
Mm,
people with cerebral palsy to put the clothes on much easier. There's different materials which make it softer when sitting in a wheelchair.
right.
There's zips on the top. I know another woman who's got like a bra company which can be fastened from the front rather than the back. So yeah, it's bespoke, but as well as extra accessories to make it accessible.
Mm, okay, right. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
That's sure.
So will you redo it again next year?
Well, if I do it again, it'll be in September, which is the next major one. Um, we'll see.
You're
Oh,
definitely
actually, no. I'm doing one before that, July. There's a disability expo happening in London, and there's a catwalk happening there. So I'll be doing it under cat. So yeah. So
wow.
yes, I will be.
All right. Okay. Okay. So a few more events going on. So I'm curious if it has changed the outlook you had on the fashion industry at all.
Yes, it has. It shows that there's a lot of work that needs to be done in that area. And with all the coverage that we got from last week's show, it shows that things are moving in the right direction. But I think the next thing we really need to spotlight is the people behind the scenes of these shows. Representation is coming a long way, and it's great to have loads of people with disabilities on the catwalk, different shapes, sizes, different races. I think it's really good. But what really needs to be highlighted now is all the people which make it happen, because a lot goes into it, a lot of hours go into it, and yeah, just to see that side of the story.
Yeah, thanks for sharing about that.
Of course.
Um, all right, there's something else you mentioned that I wanted to come back to. You've mentioned you're the president for Wheels and Welchers. Tell me more about this. What is it? What do you do?
Sure. So, Wheels and Wheelchairs, I'll tell you a little history. So, Wheels and Wheelchairs started all the way back in 2012 after a French group who had been doing similar activities in Paris challenged themselves for their 10th anniversary to skate with wheelchairs from Paris to London for the beginning of the Paralympic Games. So they knew how to get to the edge of France, but when it got to England, they wasn't sure of the routes that they would take to get to London. So they contacted the skaters here to say, look, we're doing this challenge, we need your help. And the English skaters didn't know the concept of this, and they was thought, you're crazy bringing wheelchairs like that, but sure, we'll help you do it if you know what you know, if you know what you're doing. So they helped them with the route, and they eventually came for the beginning of the Paralympic Games, and all the skaters here were all amazed by it, and we're like, yeah, we need to start something here. So that's where Wheels and Wheelchairs was born, and they started taking out people from the hospice at first, and then it gradually grew into taking anyone with disabilities. And I first knew about it and got involved 2018. At the end of 2018, I went to Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park. I
Mhm.
went on the ice rink in my electric wheelchair, just driving around, and one of the ice marshals came up to me and we started chatting, and he said, "Oh, would you be interested in wheelchair roller skating?" And I thought, "Oh, I've never heard that before, but yeah, that sounds cool. I'll get involved in that." And I eventually got involved. March, went to Battersea Park and skated around, and I absolutely loved it. And as a video creator, I created some content from it, so I was able to put that out. And then I was heavily involved that whole year. And then at the end of the year, they have an annual general meeting, and they were looking for a new president because when I had started, sadly, the previous president had passed away for unforeseen circumstances. So, and I never got to meet her, but I felt as if I did know her from everyone sharing stories throughout that whole year. And I ended up becoming the president because I saw a lot of potential in the group. It's a great community. And yeah, I've been the president ever since.
Is the community London based or is it UK based?
It is London based, but I do want to have world domination one day.
That's amazing. That
Yeah.
includes the French group as well, then.
Yeah, well, they're already there, so we got to thank them for allowing us to start here. So yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool. All right, and kind of going back to the topic of belonging, I guess I'm curious to hear perhaps your, if you can recall of your the first experience where you felt that you really belonged in a group or in a place, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us.
Oh, the first time. There's been so many different communities that people have been involved in. It's hard to remember the first time.
Or perhaps the strongest one.
I think the strongest one is in recent times, actually. Joining LinkedIn, I kind of went in not really knowing or anything about the platform and what really comes from it. And I remember my first post was like, I'm here on LinkedIn. I have no clue what I'm doing, but here I am. And I showed a video of the different things that I got up to. And for my first post, I got quite good engagement. And I thought, okay, that's really interesting. Um, and as the months went by, I did a post in July for Disability Pride Month, which was a month I never even heard of before, but it's basically celebrating disability. And I remember putting that post out on the 2nd of July 2021, and it went semi viral. And the amount of people with disabilities who connected with me and spoke to me in different levels, and how much I've, from that post onwards, how much I've learned from the community. It's felt like I felt like I was living under a rock before then, but I felt so much more connected with the disability community, and felt belonged and had a voice that's been shared with everyone doing their part. And I've just learned so much, and I'm still learning from everyone, and being able to you know do things such as being on a catwalk was the last thing I thought I'd ever do. It's never been on my mind, or become an ambassador for Purple Tuesday, or start a business with another disability advocate, seated perspectives. I mean, there's just so many things that I've got from the community that I do feel belonged, and that's
Mm.
thanks to people pushing me to get on LinkedIn, and it's my best performing platform now, and I feel really engaged there. So yeah, it's been a journey worth traveling in that aspect.
Yeah. What factors are important for you? What factors do you need to see or to feel so that you get a sense of belonging?
I feel it's got to be inclusive in all aspects. So with my disability advocacy work, I mainly talk about disability, and the sense of just making sure everyone feels included in any space, and giving people a voice to speak, and an opportunity for people to share their lived experiences rather than living off assumptions. I think we got to just in that aspect, just make people feel included. I think that's the biggest
Mm.
factor for me, and make people feel comfortable as well. I think that's really good if that's done properly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so fascinating to see how social media platforms like LinkedIn, how much they can contribute to this sense of I found my community, I found my tribe,
Hmm.
and also the of course, like you mentioned, the amazing opportunities that they can bring your way, and also I think there's a positive impact on our general well-being from it. Um,
Yeah, it's how you use the platform. I mean, it's any platform could be used positively or negatively, but I just feel LinkedIn's different. It's so weird. It's just so weird. I never knew this place existed on the internet or this
mm,
community. Yeah, it's been good.
yeah. And how do you select the advocacy events or project that you're part of now? I'm thinking that there's so many that are coming your ways. You can't probably say yes to everything.
Yeah. So one thing which really helped was before I joined LinkedIn, I did a lot of research on the platform, and I watched a guy who was talking about how it works. And one thing he said is only connect with those who are in your field, or at least uh, related to your field. Like, don't connect with just everybody, because that can be quite overwhelming in itself. So that's helped me pick and choose who I accept or don't accept with connection requests and things. And it's also got to align with my what I'm actually doing, because I've had some people just ask me for guidance in this area that I'm not really focused on or know much about. So it's got to be something that aligns with my expertise, and something I can also benefit from as well. I like to see it as a two-way street that can be both beneficial for the both of us. And that's and if it is that way, if it's something that can benefit me, I'm more likely to want to share about it, talk about my experience getting to work with this person, and yeah, elevate us both in the process.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Now I want to ask you a little bit about how was it growing up in London with a disability? How was the, I guess, the school experience or making friendships early on? How was that?
So my mum basically made sure I went to a mainstream school, as I mentioned in the beginning, treating me like everybody else. So with that, really helped me go through the school system. Not saying it was easy, because to get these things in place takes time,
Mm,
especially if it's a mainstream school who may not have all the things in place for me, like learning support assistants, people to assist me during lunchtime, and all of that. So that had to be put in place. But once it was in place, it was quite smooth. I had the odd teacher or LSA, learning support assistant, not being very helpful during class.
mm,
But overall, it was pretty good, and I did make friends. But for some reason, I've always seemed to connect with much older people, older than my age. I feel like I connect with people like that more. And that's something I've always done. So with the students in my class who were my friends, but because I mainly had to work one on one with learning support assistants, I kind of connected with them more, because I had
mm,
to see them more, and they had to help me pretty much all the time if I needed assistance.
yeah.
So I kind of had that from friends' point of view. Obviously, as a student, I wasn't like hanging out with the teachers and all that, but basically, yeah, I would consider them to be like the friends. And also growing up outside of school, traveling. So before secondary and primary school, buses weren't accessible. So I had to get taxis everywhere, because that was the only way of me getting to A to B. I didn't even have an electric wheelchair back then. I had to use a manual
Mm,
wheelchair. So I was pushed around a lot. Um, and then when I eventually got a electric wheelchair, it gave me that independence to be able to drive around myself. And it also meant getting on the bus for the first time, which absolutely petrified me. I was so scared because I'd never done the bus before, and my chair would slide all over the place. And I was like, nope, I'm never taking the bus again. I don't want to do it. So that took me even longer for me to use public transport. But mum, made sure I was okay when doing it, and I kept going on it every so often, and now I independently travel. I can get to London myself. The Elizabeth line, which is recently opened, has been really helpful. So now I can just get to my nearest station and get to central London within minutes, which used to take me hours on the bus. So that's a huge difference.
that's
And
pretty cool.
Transport for London team, all the staff members are great in the all the stations. They help me onto the train, they call ahead, and then I'm usually met off, and then they help me to wherever I need to go. It's very rare that things don't happen because of miscommunication, but usually I have a good experience, and that's helped my independence in getting around myself. But I still always require help if I'm out for a long period of time, because I can't do like a long day. So I need someone to help me with food or drink, or maybe to the toilet and things. But yeah, it's definitely helped. It's definitely improved in the past 20 years, but we have a long way to go.
I'm curious if there's a country that is leading in terms of infrastructure, or what's provided, whether you know that.
Actually, I saw a post today on LinkedIn, and I've heard it before, but Barcelona's meant to be really good with accessibility.
Mm,
I've never been, so I can't comment, but I saw a post from Jenny Berry. She's a disability advocate and talks about travel. And yeah, she said it's really excellent. And the bus drivers make sure that you're comfortable, and make sure you get to the space. There's two spaces per bus, which is something some drivers do in London, but it could be a lot better. But another place which shocked me that I have been is when I've been to America and I've used the bus. So I'll tell you a funny story. So the first time I went there was 2015. I kind of had the perception of America not being so as friendly
Mm,
because of movies and things.
yeah.
But I went with an open mind and went and I was with my friend and we had to get a bus from the airport to the town. So we got onto the bus. I got into the wheelchair space, and the driver opened his door and he was coming towards me. I thought, "Oh gosh, what have I done wrong?" I I'd never had this before. I was like, "Okay," and he actually clamped the wheelchair in, which was kind of shocking, and put a seatbelt around me, which is something I thought to myself. No way you would get that in London. You probably can relate to this. No one would have the patience for a driver to be clamping a wheelchair in. But I thought, yeah, that was really good actually. And that was in every bus experience. And the same when I went to New York as well. So yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay. That's really good to hear that people are helpful, right? And they're willing to help and even if that means stepping a little bit away from their seat, right? And stepping in and helping. I'm glad to hear that the TFL team
Mm.
is also being helpful. Often they are kind of just in the backstage or in the background and not visible enough. So and then when there are situations that they are needed, the communication system is quite good actually. Can
Yeah, and one thing, I think majority of people are willing to help. We gotta give credit where credit's due, and if I did need assistance, most people are willing to help.
Yeah. I'm always I feel always so happy when I see that the community comes together to help on any
Mm.
level, right? Um
Yeah.
and we need that. There's so much stuff going on, right? The news are filled of wars and I mean
Yeah.
all the negativity or toxicity, people not being kind that we hear. Yeah, we need more kindness for sure and more help towards each other. Yeah,
Yeah, and showcasing it as well.
yeah,
Showcasing it, highlighting
yeah,
the good.
absolutely. Yeah. I'm curious in your work, you mentioned that you're a video content creator,
Yeah.
and you do some post production work as well on videos. If I'm getting this right.
Yeah, I do editing.
Yeah. Do you find belonging in that community, in that space, in that field of work as well?
It's a very interesting point actually, because in some ways I feel really included, and in other ways I feel very excluded. Because when editing, you're only by yourself,
Mm,
working on a video. Because I could spend hours at home working on videos, and I just don't talk to anyone. And that's the same for any video editor. You got to kind of just focus and get the work done. So in that regard, it's quite excluding, but it's also very including when I get to work with other filmmakers and other editors and get their expertise and collaborate. So it's a community that's a bit of both. There's not kind of like a middle ground, unless you're doing a project that you're editing together. It's usually either extreme excluded or included.
yeah, yeah. See what you mean. Yeah. So, are there beyond the fashion week that you've mentioned and your ongoing work with Wills and Welches? Are there any exciting projects coming up that our listeners must follow?
Well, I'm actually going skiing next week in Colorado.
Ooh, you're going back to the US then as well.
Yeah, I'm going back to the United States. Yeah, I'm going back to travel. So I'll be skiing there for 10 days, which is pretty cool. But for the major project, and hoping to focus on it a lot more, is Seated Perspectives, a company that I mentioned briefly with another disability advocate, Cat. We saw a gap in the market of places which do really good accessibility, but they don't have any videos or they're advertising that they are accessible. And that's a
Mm,
huge shame on both the community and themselves when they could really be tapping into that potential. And it's also an opportunity to inspire others to realize what they're missing out on if they do make things accessible. because for years, we complain and of all the things that people are getting wrong and how to do it right, but mm, as we were just talking about, celebrating the good and highlighting the good and kind of having that spin on it, and inspiring people through the goodness of what can happen when you do get it right. For example, we went to a hotel recently, and on their website they don't really talk about accessibility, but we had an absolutely awesome time there. The staff were amazing and inclusive. They have the accessibility built into the hotel as if it wasn't like an accessible feature, and it was just like a really genuine experience. But they're not advertising it, and it's a
Mm.
shame when the community could really be benefiting in going to the hotel, as well as them gaining more business. So there's a huge gap in that aspect, and we want to fill it, and we want to do it correctly, and hopefully it will grow into something where we can build a bigger team and get more people showcasing the good.
I will share in the episode show notes your link so that listeners can follow you on LinkedIn. I may include your YouTube channel as well. Let's do that. And I'll
Yeah.
also include the Wheels and Welcher link so that people can get more visibility on that and the work you're doing. And your project you've mentioned now, kind of showcasing more about places that are being accessible, but they don't have the means yet to showcase it. Thank you so much, Idak, and I hope we can manage to organize the coffee really soon.
Same here. No, it'll be great to meet you. The conversation's got to continue.
For sure, for sure. You can follow the podcast on LinkedIn at the Belonging Project Podcast. You can also hit subscribe and stay up to date with our episodes. And do feel free to get in touch with me on coaching@fiorenzarossini.com. Thank you again and see you next time.